I'm kind of curious, what kind of led you specifically here?
A multitude of factors. Hyperliquid is very important to me in terms of the ethos, in terms of the people that are behind it, the community, what it's been able to build, and how it changed the paradigm in terms of this is how value can be reattributed to the token. This is what happens when you build a great product that is blockchain native, and how excited people are about it. My career in digital assets has been mostly about building ecosystems, right? So, been involved in Ethereum very personally for a long time, since 2017. DeFi summer really showcased that financial services could be purely permissionless. And then while I was also at Dharma, we deployed around $300 million of Filecoin into the global data center ecosystem. So over 50 data center teams globally. We provided the use of Phil for them to onboard data. This was before the AI boom, but we were able to see, okay, if a token has utility, there was a lot of demand for it, and we can build good products. Obviously, the challenge with Filecoin compared to Hyperliquid is commercialization or the ability to generate significant revenues. When I saw what Hyperliquid is capable of, I said, okay, if we build this the right way, Hyperion DeFi can basically have two tailwinds. Not only is it holding what we believe to be the best digital asset on its balance sheet, but also it is going to be able to build scalable revenue generating business lines that are tied to the value of Hyperliquid and also agnostic to the price of Hype. And I think that's something that you don't see very often. And it was the perfect opportunity. And it was really an important thing for me to work on, because I want Hyperliquid to succeed and the ecosystem to succeed. And Hyperion DeFi also succeeds in doing so.
Yeah, there's a couple questions there too, and I want to get into kind of your take on where this can go, because clearly if you have buybacks and burns and growing activity and everything, I am kind of curious to kind of get your take as a CEO leading a DAT here, kind of where Hyperliquid could go, the token itself in 2026 and beyond. But I also going back to kind of this lighter Hyperliquid matchup. We were talking with both teams, and I'm curious too, because lighter seems to be chasing this other model more akin to Robinhood around kind of free trading, no fees on what they've done. Versus kind of what you guys have built on the Hyperliquid side. So I'm kind of curious, in your eyes, the distinction to be made in this friendly competition we call Crypto Project of the Year between Lighter and Hyperliquid, to distinguish between the two.
Just broadly speaking, I have immense respect for builders and entrepreneurs. It's not easy to build a brand new product, to gain a community, to take risks, and often be ridiculed by those that are just happy to sit on a keyboard and say, oh, this is all the reasons why your product is not as good as the other product. I think Vlad and their team have built a very, very good exchange. And I've talked to a lot of traders, institutional users, and there are a lot of valuable components to Lighter, right? It's got the ZK, it's much lower fees. It's built on top of the Ethereum stack. Great product. I think Hyperliquid is better, right? It's got huge community alignment. They gave a lot of the whatever 30% plus the token share to their community. They're buying back all the tokens. They're not using any of the revenues for themselves. They have, I think that what they've built with the synergy between Hypercore and Hyper EVM is a really, really great primitive, because you are then able to port funds between the two verticals and access, your simple financial services like borrow and lending and swap, but also run really great positionings with equities, commodities, and FX. So it's really just about it's not about like tribal war between various digital factions, right? Also have immense respect for Ethereum and Solana. Everything paved the way, and it is what has allowed the building blocks of blockchain and DeFi to continue to improve as quickly as they have. So I think all of it has led to this. But Hyperliquid, I think, is going to be one of the final forms of how blockchain-based services will become extremely valuable and utilized globally. And so, kind of tying that into your question about future value, people love to throw out numbers. I like
Yeah.
to just think more about, very clear structural supply and demand. Supply is diminishing day by day. I think Hyperliquid is one of, if not the only deflationary blockchain product today, and the demand for it keeps growing. So the fact that it's decoupling from crypto at a time where, you know, Bitcoin and Ethereum are I think objectively looking pretty bad in terms of the price action. It's going to be a thing where, if strength does return to the majors, Hype should be one of the outperformers. At least that's our outlook, and it's because it has fundamentals that back it, and it makes a lot of sense to investors both in TradFi and in DeFi.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess coming from, a traditional kind of investor lens background, like looking at TAMs, looking at kind of how you try and it's rare because you can't actually, I guess, kind of have a DCF. There's a lot of things where it's like there's no way to model this because there's no revenue. That had been kind of like the knock on crypto projects for forever until people kind of woke up to like, hey, wait a minute, there might be fees and transaction revenue you can have here. And then, the growth in hype had kind of caught a lot of people by surprise. I feel like a lot of people are still waking up to all of this happening. But I mean, like when you look through that lens and you kind of put the pieces together, is there kind of like, okay, if this continues, here's like our expectation as a Hyperliquid DAT, here's like our price level? Because almost, every leader of a DAT has to maybe start to think about that. And certainly, I'm sure some of them, ETH DATs, are taking a look at what's fair value right now.
Yeah, so I'll actually provide a little bit of color on Hyperion and what we're doing, right? So in the past 6 or 7 months, we've built 5 different vertical lines directly tied to Hyperliquid. So that includes our validator, it includes DeFi monetization, which is the deployment of markets, for example, like HIP3, or our proprietary Hype Asset Use Service product, which is for fee reductions for institutional clients. We are also doing volatility-based strategies using staked Hype, which is a great novel primitive that we did at Dharma Capital. And we also are engaged in like ecosystem rewards, which is like using the different protocols like Kinetic. We recently announced a partnership with Risk yesterday, which is an options volatility protocol built native to the Hyper EVM. And so we're able to use all of these different products built or native to Hyperliquid, generate additional revenues on top of staking, and then are also able to earn token exposure or governance exposure to other protocols. So what HypeD or Hyperion DeFi shares become is for retail and institutional investors to not only get the access to Hype token, but also the revenue generated products and the valuable components of Hyperliquid. And we think it's like a full stack, all-in-one vehicle. And we think that there is going to be a lot of value there because when most investors look at the digital asset space, previously, they're like, okay, I'm going to buy the major, or I'm going to buy some of the beta tokens because they're usually going to be a lot more reflexive, right? Maybe they'll move, with a little bit more acceleration compared to the major token,
Mm-hmm.
or I can just build a portfolio. If you look at the trend, I believe most people that have done that strategy were not able to. It's very challenging to select those products, especially if they can't generate revenue. Hyperion DeFi kind of solves for all of that because you get the value of Hype, you get the value of other protocols that we are directly partnered with, and also the revenue generating businesses. And so you combine that with Hyperliquid's trajectory, right? So if you value it just as a perp dex, I think it's pretty fairly valued. But if you value it as a layer one, right, and all of the growth and network effects that can have, we think, yeah, it should be where Solana is, definitely. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. And then could it catch up to Binance? I mean, I see a world where that's possible. So those would be kind of like the two initial milestones in terms of where we think Hyperliquid can grow to. And just in that scaling effect, right, as we get to those levels, Hyperion DeFi, our businesses also scale that much. It makes me think of Ethereum in 2018, at around like $85 to $100 to Ethereum in 2020 at $3,000. Your product base may not have changed, but your scalability of your capital has multiplied by, call it like 30x. And so that's a very significant shift that we expect to see. And for the right digital asset treasury company with the right asset base and the right product lines, it's an incredible opportunity for upside growth.